evening, and thank you for tuning in to another week with Fathers Who Care. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you another week to talk about some good things that's going on in the neighborhood and to bring some people from the neighborhood that you should know. Now, this my guest today might be new to some, but he's not new to all. So I'm going to introduce him to some and present to others. None other than our deputy chief. He's a chief in my mind, but he's the deputy chief of community policing out of the office of the superintendent. None other than Dwayne Betts. Most of you know him from the West Side for the work that he's been doing in the community, his compassion for the community, and that non-ending zest or zeal to empower the people. So we're going to have some fun tonight. So I want you to tune in tonight as Fathers Who Care present to you. The topic tonight is how can we bridge the gap between law enforcement, the law enforcement officers, and the community. That's what we're talking about. How can we bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community? So we're basically talking about community policing. We're basically talking about how to bridge the gap. We're basically talking about, let's not talk about what police ain't doing or what police should do. Let's talk about what's going on with those good officers on the street. Yeah, one can talk about all kind of stuff if you choose to, but this is not that show, all right? This show, we're going to be talking about what works, all right? We're going to be talking about what we can do as a community to make sure that we empower our young people, strengthen our young people, teach our young people discipline, and also support our young people to doing what is right. So with that being said, you're tuning in, you're watching right now. Tune in and keep watching Fathers Who Care. The number here is 312-738-1060. And tonight we're going to be talking specifically with our special guest, none other than Deputy Chief Dwayne Betts.
Thank you.
So, Commander, forgive me, Chief, you know, I remember you from back then when you was Commander, so bear with me. I get used to it. I have moments, but I'm going to correct that moment. Chief.
Yes, sir.
It's so good to see you out again, and we know that passion that you have for empowering the community has not changed. We want to thank those who are in charge, particularly our superintendent, for having the foresight and the knowledge and the wherewithal to bring you up to that level, because you have done such a wonderful job on the west side of Chicago. Your passion for the people on the west side of Chicago is beyond any thought or that it wasn't there. We just believe that you really love what you do, and we want to ask you a few questions this evening as we kind of wind down, all right? Sure. It's been one of those days. Everybody been out rushing around doing what they got to do, but right now we're going to talk about what can we do to empower our community. What can we do to bridge the gap? There's so much going on. So many things that's out there now with this going on and that going on, all kind of stuff. But we want to talk specifically about bridging the gap,
right,
if that's okay.
Sure.
But before we talk about how to bridge the gap, here on CAN TV, phone number 312-738-1060. Call in and talk to Chief Dwayne Betts. But before we do that, let me ask you a personal question, if you don't mind. Who are you? All right? Who is not the Chief Dwayne Betts, not the law enforcement officer Dwayne Betts? Who is Dwayne Betts?
Oh, I'm a happy community person, just like everyone else. And thank you for the work that you've done. And
listen, thank you.
And when I worked with you in Austin, great experiences. We turned a lot of things around. And when I last talked to the district commanders on the west side, that they picked up the same momentum with you. So we're happy about that. But I'm just an ordinary guy that just happened to have a great job. I love what I do. I grew up in Chicago on the west side, then I moved to the south side. I still remember what it was like when you played outside and you weren't worried about as much. You ride your bike, and you can ride your bike downtown and back. And you know, I'm a person that care about how people feel safe, what makes them feel safe, and when they're not safe, what we can do to turn it around. And sometimes it's practical things that we just don't think about. And because I went to your meetings, a lot of times I would hear the voices of the community, and they said what a lot of people in the panels have said around the city is that they want to have a better relationship with the police. And just as great of that information was that the police officers said the same thing in the survey. So I'm a human being that loved the Chicago and I just want to do a great job in community policing.
Well, and you know, it was really kind of easy to work for you, to work with you, and to work around you because you always had that inviting spirit. I mean, we've done so many activities on the ground. We've done activities for the men's group. We've done activities in the district. We've done activities on the street, and we've done in the schools. So we've really been working together. And I will say this, that your predecessor is following in your shoes. All right.
Right.
Commander Cato is doing the same thing. I mean, we got some good commanders on the west side. I mean, they're easily to get close to. We got some good ones. I mean, literally. We got some good commanders that you can touch, you know, that you can come and talk to in 11. We got some good ones in 25. I mean, there's some things going on in the neighborhood that can use, you know, some more energy. But for the most part, the relationships with the district are improving by leaps and bounds. I'm telling you, there used to be a certain stigma with some districts. All right, they're not the same. All right, the districts are receptive. I mean, I see the folks are actively involved in the meetings. I even see districts from 25 working with folks in 11. I see 11 working with 15. That's stuff that we was doing together. All right,
Yeah.
so it's still working.
It still works.
It still works.
It's a great formula, working together, collaborating on ideas, and just working to make a safer community.
Yeah.
And, you know, the superintendent, you know, he did his homework when he placed the people he put on the west side and south side. And everyone understands that his mission, his compassion is that he wants citizens of Chicago, south, west side, north side, doesn't matter. We want them all to feel safe. And
Well, we'll tell this. Let's say this to the commander right now. Commander, thank you so much for what you've done with so many folks that we know that came off the west side through various districts, and the work that they're doing now at headquarters. I mean, I could call back some names. I can call back Washington. I can call back West. I can call back some of the sergeants who are lieutenants and captains down there. So the work is the work that you all have been doing have not gone unnoticed. So, forgive me, Chief. Let's go to this question here. We got a call. If you don't mind, want to take a call?
Sure.
And so don't beat me up, guys. If I happen to just run out there and say, Commander, you know I made a mistake as Chief. All right. So charge it to my head, not my heart. Caller, you on the air. Your comment or question, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you said they doing a good job, I don't think they're doing a good job. And I don't think Eddie Johnson ain't doing a good job.
Who?
They probably the problem. Eddie Johnson and Rod Manuel, they probably the problem. And the media.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to respect your opinion, but I'm going to ask you a question. If you heard what I was saying, I said I can speak for those that I've encountered on the west side of Chicago who's working with the community. Are you actually working with the community?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever met this chief?
Nope.
Have you ever been on the west side doing work in the community?
I've been on the west side a couple of times.
Okay, and I appreciate you calling, but let me ask this question for the purpose of the show. The show tonight is entitled Not What We Can't Do. The show is called What Can We Do to Bridge the Gap Between Law Enforcement and the Community. Would you work with me on that tonight?
Yeah, but I don't think it's working.
Oh, no, here's the question again. I know you got a passion and I want to feel it. But here's the question. The question is, what can we do? That means me and you. And that means law enforcement. What can we do to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community?
They need to stop doing what they're doing. And the community stop doing what they're doing too.
Okay, I'm not saying that. So if you have if you're saying they're doing something, they need to stop what they're doing. There you go. I don't know what you mean by stop what they're doing because he wasn't specific. But what do you think we can do to bridge the gap between folks like our caller? Let me finish. Our caller has a passion and he believes that the relationships are strained, that they need to be improved. So is that fair? Caller? So how can we improve the relationship, sir?
Well, actually, we need to keep doing what we're doing and more of what we're doing. We're trying to work with communities.
Okay.
We're trying to get people to come out and work with us. If an individual does not work with us, just like the caller, he said he's sometimes on the west side, a couple times. Well, come there a little more often and be part of the solution. Come to some of the meetings we have in some church basements and the community rooms where ideas are formed and people are held accountable for the strategies that we set up and
Well,
use.
Listen, I'm not going to go out here and say that there's not some bad folk out there, but they all ain't bad. There's some good folk out there, right?
Sure.
It ain't all bad folks in the homes, in the community. There's some good folks in the community too.
Indeed.
What we're saying is enough of trying to beat each other up. How about if we come together and I take care of your child and you take care of my child? If I see your child doing something down the street, as opposed to me saying that ain't my problem, how about if I get more involved like I was raised? The way I was raised, that if you was on our block,
Right.
and we knew your parents, we was going to deal with you, then take you to your parents.
Funny thing, Reverend, when I go to community meetings and they're saying the same thing you're saying, that there was a Miss Jones who, if you were clowning on the block or whatever, if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, they do those very same things. We have to be Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones nowadays with what we can do and what we can say. So maybe you can't just grab that kid by the collar and snatch him up and take him to his porch or whatever, but you can talk to him.
Right.
And community engagement can't be just something that police do. You have to be Mrs. Jones. You have to say, young man, I see you out here oftentimes with those other guys. You look a little smarter. We like to work with you. Do you go to high school? Do you need anything? Do you need a job? Say something to him to kind of put him in the right direction, as Mrs. Jones did for you and me.
And I believe it can happen, all right?
It can.
I mean, I'm not, I remember, and I'm not trying to butter up the law enforcement of the world. I remember when I was growing up, we had officer friendlies. I remember when we was growing up, officers were actively involved in the neighborhood. I remember we used to play ball with them. They used to throw balls and basketballs and play games with us in the neighborhood. But let's get some callers. And thank you, caller, for your comment. Call back and tell us now, what can we do together? Caller, you on air, your comment or question. Our guest tonight is Chief Dwayne Betts. Your comment or question on what can we do to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. I know we can do it. I know it's time that we work together. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
This is Paula. How you doing, Reverend Johnson?
I'm doing my very best trying to make a difference in the neighborhood.
You do every night. You don't even have to worry about talking about that. Hello, Deputy Chief. How you doing this evening?
Great caller. Glad you called.
That's a beautiful badge you got on. It really represents a lot, let me tell you. Please don't hang up on me before I say goodbye. I got a few ideas how to gap the police with the regular neighborhood people.
Go ahead.
Back in the day, we used to have little hotlines. I don't know if a gangbanger got time to stop in and call somebody and talk on a hotline. Something bother him. Maybe he'll decide, go have a piece of pie or something and decide not to go shooting down the streets. We got a lot of peewees. This is Al Capone. This is Chicago, Deputy Chief. And I know we need all the help that we can possibly get. We got turf wars. What happened to the good old guardian angels? Do you remember them?
Yes, we do.
And they still around.
Yes, they still around. Those were a hell of a crew to have around. And as far as the police in the neighborhood, a little more presence, just like the Reverend said. A little more flatfoots in the neighborhood. Walk around the neighborhoods, West End, Parkside, Chicago Avenue, the Austin District. Every time y'all try to build up that Madison Street, get them cute little stores in there, what happens? They come and shoot them all up. Take it easy over there. Let Chicago build itself. We need a strong chief. We need a true chief. Lots of times we get good people in there and they don't do nothing. We know what the Chicago is all about. It's a good city. High paying taxes, you know the drill. Reverend, you are the best. I don't never try to label nobody. I always try to praise the good Lord. Mr. Chief, get the hotlines, help with the turf wars. The turf wars all seem to be along the freeways. And I'll give you a little hint. I might be wrong, but I come from the old school. On all the turf wars, if you notice, all the shootings on the freeways come from people coming from the burbs, coming in to get the drugs into the city and to get back up on the freeway and go home and have a party, and you got Raul and you got Pedro over there fighting over that turf. Bada bing, bada bang, somebody gets shot on the freeway.
Well, let me ask this question while we have the chief here.
Yes,
and you said, I think I heard you say something about the hotline.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So how about this? The question tonight is, and we want to give folks an opportunity while we have the chief here. What can we do to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community? How can we bring more energy into folks working together? I'm kind of baiting you right now because I think if we work together, I think we can make change in the neighborhood. So do you believe that?
We got to see where the problem's coming from. We got to see what's on these young people's minds. You can't be shooting up grandma and grandpa that ain't got nothing. Michigan Avenue's a different story.
What is your question for the chief?
Right, we shooting for people that ain't got nothing. You got to get back together and see where the problem is coming from with inside these young people. What's wrong?
Okay.
What is wrong?
Okay, thank you.
You can't blame it on no jobs. You can't blame it on no alderman. You got to find it within these people, these GBs, these EBs, the AOs, the ABs.
Well, I love you and I love your energy, but I got to go to the next caller, okay, darling? Okay? So let's go to the next caller. Caller, you on air.
Yes, good evening. This is Griffin calling, and that is one of my best officers you have there. We have to look in the mirror at ourselves. It begins with us. I don't care. You can call them Baby, Ray, Fay, or whoever. I was a bad little girl growing up at 47th Street, but I lived in the real world. I understood family values, and we have to understand family values whether or not we've given birth to these kids or not. These are our kids, and they don't need to be given all these additional names. Go with the names that they have. Give them a smile first and mean it.
So tell me, though, Ms. Griffin, thank you so much for calling, and you're also faithful, and I love the work that you put in, and thank you for the work that you continue to do to encourage us out here on the west side and the south side.
And he was over at the 6th District with me.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
I remember.
Yes, ma'am.
Great days.
So here's the question. You said reinstill family values back into the community?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Ms. Griffin.
I like that she said we and a lot of we can't do it by ourselves.
Okay.
So I'm glad that Ms. Griffin is willing to work with us.
Absolutely,
Yes,
and faithful to it.
Yes.
And I think we will have folks who really want to work together because for the most part, everyone really care about their children, I hope, and they care about their community, I hope. And I hope they care about wanting to work together to make us safer, to make our community safer, to promote a safer community, to kind of get these ills out of our community because we don't produce them in the community. Folks buy them and bring them into the community. So if we can kind of let the community know that the community just say, I mean, when I got this old saying, Chief, when real men stand up, little boys sit down.
Yes.
There's less folks out there doing wrong than the folks that's doing right on the block.
Well, that's true. We have to empower the community to stand up with us and to stand up for themselves in some of these households. I was
Absolutely.
at a household, and I was at a meeting, rather, and the conversation came up about gun violence, and I said, we can cut this gun violence if you can go home and police your house. Mm-hmm. That you could go
home and police your own house. All right.
If you got someone in your house that is doing something mischievous and they're in the room and you're kind of worried that they might be involved with some activities with guns or some illegal stuff, you need to go check in the room. And one of the citizens in attendance raised their hand and told me that they didn't like what I said because they said I'm endangering them.
By policing your own home.
By policing your own home. So I told her it wasn't for everybody, but we got to police our own house. We can't let people just be terrorists in our own home.
Take over the parents' job.
Yes.
Come on, caller, you on there. Your comment or question, please. We have the chief here, Chief Dwayne Betts. Your comment or question for tonight, what can we do to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community? We know it can work. We're talking about community policing. We ain't talking about rogue cops. We ain't talking about rogue people. We're talking about people working together. So you got some good, you got some bad. But tonight, we want to talk about working together. Because we need law enforcement, all right? And law enforcement need the community. We can't do it outside of each other. Go ahead, caller.
I just want to commend the officer and just let him know my condolences for the officer that lost his life trying to make a difference and trying to do the right thing. And I just want to say, to the first caller that called in, I totally disagree with him because I feel like you all are doing a wonderful job. And you're always seem to be there, but you can't be everywhere, because there's so much going on. So I just wanted to commend you all and just, thank you for the hard work that you do to help our people. Just people in general, I thank you for all that you do.
Well, there you go.
Thank you.
wanna
Thank
take that
you. We
one?
appreciate that. I'll share with the superintendents. We're still struggling with the loss of Commander Bauer. Yes.
Yeah, and it's important to know that, when we out in the community, folks don't know from day to day what's going to happen. Even as we walking up and down the streets, you don't know who you may encounter. But for the most part, when you have folks who are out there patrolling, who's been given the oath to serve and protect, and you don't know who you encounter, just like this situation downtown. Who would have thought, right?
Right.
Who would have thought downtown in the state of the Illinois building? Caller, you on there? Comment or question with Chief Dwayne Betts. Your comment or question, please.
Oh, yes. Hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
we here. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. First of all, I just want to thank you all for letting me have this opportunity. And, Chief, I feel you on that when you said you come up with a young man, hey, how you doing? You need a job. I'm moving from the suburbs and back into the city for that same reason. I grew up on the west side. I'm looking for this opportunity to give back. And I think you all did a wonderful job. And I've been here listening. It's almost like a marriage. If you married and you got kids, it's going to take the husband and the wife to do it, just like it's going to take the police department and the community.
That's what we're talking about. So tell the chief here, what can we do together I like what you said, by the way, but tell the chief before time escapes us, what can we do that he can reinforce in community policing when he go back to the headquarters about the state of policing in the community? What can we do? You tell us, Chief.
Well, I think as the caller said previously, you got to work with the police officers, and you got to know what's going on in your community. You have to get to know your neighbors.
Okay.
There's a lot of great efforts in the community that are driven from church basements to community policing offices, and that were proven to work before. But the thing that we got to do, we got to talk. We got to coordinate our efforts. We have to make sure that we also restore our image as a police department with our public trust, and that will help us come around with public safety. People have said so often that they feel a lot safer when they know the officer, and the officer has also spoken and said that they feel better and they feel that they can do a better job when they know the community.
Well, John Cook told me to tell you hello, Chief. I see Leroy White, I see Sheila, I see others, but it's too far back. I can't see them all. But anyway, on behalf of the Chief, I'm saying hello to you all. Give us a call back, but also becoming active involved. If there are any other callers out there?
John.
Okay, let's go. John, thank you so much. John Cook.
JC.
Yeah, JC. But anyway, Chief, what is the state of community policing in the city of Chicago?
Live and vibrant. The superintendent, one of the first things he did when he put me as a deputy chief, he put me under him so he can have direct contact with the community, and in the emphasis of making sure we are working.
So you're
together.
working out of the office of the superintendent?
Oh, yes.
So you're not just in the office down the hall, down the street somewhere?
No, we've been moved a few times before, but he saw fit because he wanted to have, like I said, he wanted to make sure that community policing worked to the best of his what he would like to see. And what he'd like to see is basically that the community is working on problem solving. People in the community said they want to see officers that are coming to the meetings, and we're looking at a lot of the meetings and trying to restructure them so that people will feel more inclined to return.
Okay.
We did a great job in the 90s promoting community policing caps. We branded it. You had caps everywhere.
Right.
And sometime in the 2000s it fell down a little bit, but with this re-emphasis on restoring public trust, we're going to get there.
Well, and I think we can, if we want to sit around and just talk about what can't work, we can do that all day.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll never go anywhere. So, and I think people are entitled to have opinions, but I don't think you should have opinion about nothing if you don't have a suggestion for trying to make things happen.
Yeah, and I'm open for suggestions.
So, and I believe that, and that's why I thank you for coming out. I thank you for continuing to do the good work in the neighborhood, and I respect those who are out there trying to make a difference. Caller, you on the air. What's your comment and question for Deputy Chief Dwayne Betts tonight about how can we bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community? We can do it.
Yeah, that's Paula again. Hey, how you doing again? I got one last idea for you. Can you hear me?
Sure we can.
Remember that when you used to bring in the guns and you either get a $100 gift card from Target or whatever? Why don't you try that again?
Okay.
Put it all together somewhere. Maybe some people, maybe you get 2,000-3,000 guns. People will come and turn it in for a Walmart card. It's just an idea, hon.
Yeah, I remember. You remember the
Oh, yeah.
the
Just an
gun turn-in
idea.
program?
Yeah, we did one recently, and
Yeah.
those things everything's on the table. We want Chicagoans to feel safe. We want to work with you. That's an excellent idea. Thank you.
But give us a call. We have our executive community meeting next week, Wednesday. If you're interested in becoming a part of the Westside Community Stakeholders, give us a call at 773-287-5821, 773-287-5821. Log on to Fathers Who Care, the Westside Community Stakeholders, the West Garfield Park Youth Council, the West Garfield Park Community Stakeholders, Twitter, Facebook, all of that good stuff. So in closing, Chief, what can you encourage or what can you share with the audience, with those who are watching this evening? Thank you, Tiffany. What can you share with our audience on what can we do to make our communities better?
Well, first of all, I would say get involved with your community policing office. You can go to www.chicagopolice.org and look for your district, search your district, as well as please pass the word. The Chicago Police Department has extended the deadline for taking the police examination.
Wait a minute, you're talking about to becoming a
Yes.
police.
Yes.
Okay.
We be part of the change. We extended the deadline to March 12th.
So if folks want to become a police, if you think you can do a better job, join the force, right?
Join the force. We're looking for new people on the job, and we want to be able to make sure we reach the diverse city and make sure people have
So
an
the
opportunity to take the test.
So it is extension to March 12th.
March 12th. The
Okay.
exam is on May 5th. Great job, great career, great benefits
Opportunity. Yeah.
and opportunities.
So the exam has been extended to March 12th. If you're interested in becoming a law enforcement officer, if you want to be about a change in the community, take the exam. Come on in, take the exam, become part of the solution and not the problem. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely.
We want to thank those of you who called in tonight. We want to thank our young people for doing what they continuously do to promote these shows. Our young people are doing the best that they can do with what they got, and we got to continue to bless them and guide them and give them the encouragement and the support that they need to be the best that they can be. Listen, it's been fun. We encourage you to tune in next week. We want to thank you, Chief, as always, for the good work you're doing. We want to thank all of you, all of those law enforcement officers out there in the streets who are working hard every day to make our community safe. And we encourage you to keep doing the good work. God bless you. Good night. Keep the faith. And we'll see you next week on the other side. Listen, continue to vote, 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 vote. Vote for what's right. Vote to save our children. Vote to save our communities. Just vote, will you please? God bless you. Good night. And keep the faith. We'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So with that being said,